And I was like, this is not good. This is really not good. But he never gave up. And he never gave up. And that's why I passed him. I was like, okay, that's like the C-. Okay. In the system. But there was another person who, it was him and his girlfriend. And the girlfriend took it seriously and he didn't really take it seriously. So when they were doing it, he was sucking. And I was like, oh, let's just take a pause here. Let's just have her continue. We're going to finish you up next week. But next week never came for that guy, because it was bad. So, I mean, there's a standard. But generally, I do not allow people to do that unless they're at the level.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's fair enough, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Got a lot of respect for that guy as well, getting beat up week in, week out for his missus. she must have been quite fit, mate.
And I think another thing that I often find when talking about gradings and belts in jiu-jitsu is how subjective they are. I just had a friend recently was asking me, he's still a white belt, he's been training a little while, but not very frequently. But he asked the other day, and he said, mate, how do I get like a blue belt? He said, I've asked several people and nobody seems to be able to answer the question. Mm-hmm. So I gave him, what I could have an answer, but, ultimately it is very much, it's subjective, it's being consistent. It's your sort of behavior on the mats, it's your performance, kind of maybe in rolling, your ability to, correctly execute techniques. And if you compete, obviously that might have a weighting as well. But it sounds like with more of a demonstration or crucible structure that you've got, it might allow a little bit more objectivity to grading.
I think so. I think having that, particularly if like my affiliates want to do like blue belt demonstrations for their guys, it serves a couple of different purposes. To have a standardized level of skill, a standardized baseline of skill. Everyone is on the same page about knowing, fundamental movements and positional escapes. Like you got to know how to do a bridge and roll, a trap and roll, a foot drag escape, a standard side mount escape, underhook, all those things. And as you're doing those, you ingrain those fundamental movements in your body. And you don't, for blue, it's more about feeling the correct angles to execute a technique without a ton of strength, where you don't really have to have good submissions. You have to demonstrate what the submissions are. But, to tap somebody it's a more sophisticated skill. Generally, you have to link techniques together. You have to sell a technique to get an honest reaction, to which then gives an exposure for the next technique, which will probably hit. Right. And that's like too much for blue. So you don't have to be able, maybe you tap somebody occasionally at blue, but it's more about, awareness, fundamental movements, and being able to not spaz out and still start to achieve your goals.
I think that's great. And I'd be quite interested to hear maybe, I guess, the key things that you look for through the belt. So you've just given us a breakdown there of sort of white to blue belt. And, often people talk about the purple belt being a huge milestone in jiu-jitsu, as all the belts are, to be fair. But I think getting to purple belt, and not being one of the blue belt dropouts, and then sort of the journey from purple often to black is much shorter. So I'd be quite interested to hear about your thoughts on, I guess, the key focuses for maybe sort of purple and brown, and then we can get onto black belt as well.
Absolutely. I've definitely given it a lot of thought. And, as I developed these, back in the day, they were DVDs, but I developed like blue belt requirements while I was creating blue belts. Of course, Mr. Harris already had that laid out. I just put it into video format. And then purple belt, I didn't, when I was creating purple belts, I made that instructional brown and black, etc. So I wanted to be an honest reflection of like what it really took. So I have given a lot of thought into, the kind of performance characteristics that you have at every belt level. So we've kind of gone over blue. Purple, in the words of my instructor, is the belt of momentum and combinations. So you really have to understand how to generate momentum with your legs, particularly on your back, being able to sweep people, being able to swing perpendicular to them, put your leg over their head, using the momentum of your leg rather than just arms, arms, arms. You know, you're starting to use all of your limbs. And eventually at like a brown and black, you're using your head like your hands. You're using your knees like your hands. But at first, the big breakthrough is like using your feet like your hands. And then the combinations is, okay, you have a technique. There's a little bit of reverse engineering. What came before that technique? If that technique doesn't work, what comes after? So you're chunking things together into like technique modules, like, you know, omoplata, a triangle, arm lock. Like that's a nice little technical sequence. You know, you're in side control. They roll away, boom, clock choke. They roll into you, darce, you know, whatever. You need to be able to understand like what comes before and after and how these, and then you have a little system. And eventually at the higher levels, you interlink those systems with one another. You know, you're going for an arm, that's not working. You switch to the back, that's not working. Okay, maybe you switch to the leg system. So momentum and combinations and mastering the use of your legs, and that brings your energy expenditure way down. You get so much more efficient and your gas tank goes way up, not because you have better cardio, because you have better fuel economy. Now so purple is the mini black belt. And you don't really fundamentally change that much from purple to black. Your game, particularly your A game, is usually quite established. But for purple to brown, what is a brown belt? It's really a seasoned purple belt that is more interested in the quality of the execution rather than knowing what the next move is. So you're expanding, you know, you might have a 3-step combination sequence that you're really good at. You might add one technique before and one technique after. So now that's like, oh, you have 5 possible moves you could spin together. So it's a little deeper, but it's fundamentally the same technique chunk. Also, the quality of your movement makes a lot of difference. It's not just being able to, okay, I'm in side control and I need to go back to guard. So I'm going to like hip up, move out, get 45 degrees, insert my shin, push back to 90 degrees, and be able to be able to move out of an inferior position. At brown belt, you should be able to move exactly where you want to go. You're not overshooting or undershooting the target in any way. You have a certain mastery. So there's no weak links. In jiu-jitsu, you don't need to be that strong, but you need to be strong enough so that there's not a weak link, right? Hard is not really, you know, soft is not totally relaxed. It's just hard enough. It's just solid enough, but it's on the underside of